What do you see as the scariest unknown scenarios of the revolution in all things social media?
Two things. Firstly, perhaps a loss of privacy. I think we take our freedom for granted, and we tend to think that what we do online and things often has no consequence. But also what is actually going on. Now, I sort of get a little bit wide awake thinking about this because back in my computer science past I did a bit with data mining, so this whole idea that you can take really big data sets and extract really interesting information out of them in novel ways that can actually join dots between things that people don't think are joining dots. It's a bit like the way supermarkets place things in the supermarket based upon what people actually buy. So they'll put the Maggi onion soup on the same place as the Nestle reduced cream because people tend to buy those things together. But that's a really easy example, but it's more subtle than that in other ways in which things get placed in the analysis. For me, that big data is the thing that's the really scary. The other thing too is it's a throwaway comment by Christian sociologist, Lyon, his last name is, and he wrote something about an article called "Would God Use Email?" But in that he sort of talks about we have, and a bit like the video, the rapper. I've got 1 million friends in cyberspace, but I don't know the person over the fence. I think it's both. I think we have, there's a blurring between the online world and the offline world just into life now for lots of people. But I think that loss of personal relationships, those who are physically co-locating with us, which has always been a possibility, but maybe exacerbated more, is something that worries me.
It was interesting reading that question because the question went along and then at the end it tapped on social media. But as I was listening to the question, if I could talk about outside of social media, one of the big things that scares me is the reducing costs of reading a genome, a human genome. I think it's down to about $1,000 now to read a genome, and it's just the whole ethical issues surrounding determining the fate of people and determining life and death based on genomes. I mean, if a genome was $50 to read, what are the dangerous ethical questions that might arise out of that? That's one of the things that scares me.
And I would say that that's actually related to actually people having good ethical frameworks for engaging with that. Those of you who are involved in medicine or perhaps bioethics know that there are some really quite rigorous frameworks around that, around questions of autonomy, of non-maleficence, not doing more bad than good, beneficence, doing good if you're morally obliged to do it, and justice issues in terms of access to things. I don't necessarily see that kind of thinking yet being present in the digital sphere to the same